Hey, Manchester. Auburn hooks it. It's the progress report. By God, here it is. We're pretty much in the middle of October.
It's October. Well, yeah, I'm just about. 15th
Just
is Friday.
about, my
Yep.
God. And that means we're almost to the next presidential election, which is not only a presidential election, it's an election for office holders at all levels in state government, governor on down, and one of our U.S. senators. So it's exciting times in New Hampshire. Lots of things are happening. Michelle Obama, who's probably the most beloved figure in public life,
Absolutely true.
political life in the United States, will be here tomorrow with
Visiting
Snoop.
us tomorrow.
I'm going to go see her. I've been invited, and I'm going to go. I'm going to go see her.
I had to decline.
And
Me too.
I got a day job.
but I'm real happy to have Mr. Farley back.
Glad I made it.
And I was interested in talking to him. I called several times, just asking what he wanted to make the show about. And by God, to my amazement, I got him in Jacksonville, Florida, as Hurricane Matthew was visiting the town. I couldn't believe it. And he was down there for very good
And the
reasons.
cell service was still good.
And
so.
his dad was in having some critical medical issues, and he was down there, and I was blown away. Pardon the pun.
Well,
Not like you were.
but
Tell us about that.
For us, it was an inconvenience more than anything else. It was very difficult to secure lodging. The hotel we had booked when we arrived told us to turn around and get out of there because they were evacuating. And then, of course, when people are evacuating their homes, it's very hard to find a local hotel that'll get you a room.
Absolutely.
So a lot of our time was spent chasing lodging. A lot of our time was spent chasing food because, of course, everything shut down. They do a really good job down there.
When you say us, it was you and your brother?
My two brothers and my son, four of us were down there. Just asking for it.
Yeah.
You know? But on the day of the hurricane, a lot of wind and a lot of rain, and a lot of wind and a lot of rain, and the power went out, and it was very hot, very muggy, of course, because
And where did you find lodging?
we moved a couple times. We gently convinced the original hotel people to secure us lodging in one of their sister hotels and get us over there on their shuttle van, which they did. And then I enlisted the help of my very smart wife up here in New Hampshire to get on her computer and hunt and hunt and hunt. And she was able to find us lodging for the following day because it really was one night at a time. And,
So you had to go from place to place.
yeah,
to place.
and it was kind of fun because we actually had to move during the first part of the hurricane. We had to make a little military maneuver, to get from one place to another, and there was no.
You had to drive on some closed roads?
No, the roads weren't closed. We drove on the interstate for the most part, but there was no one on the. I mean, the smart people were hunkered down. The smart people had made plans. The people like me just showed up and expected everything to be open for business, and it wasn't. But we made it through. It was very interesting. We went outside actually during the height of the hurricane. Our hotel was pretty secure.
Now, how far were you from the hurricane itself? I mean, the center of the hurricane.
Well, the center of the hurricane, I don't think actually made landfall in Jacksonville, but the original hotel that we had attempted to get booked in was maybe 5 to 7 miles away from us toward the ocean. We were that far inland.
We had to go toward the hurricane?
No, we had to come back toward the mainland. They wouldn't have us out there.
I see.
And they ended up with about 9 feet of water in their lobby. So it turned
9
out
feet?
they got hit. The ocean side of the city got hit very, very hard. The tidal surge came up very, very high, and a lot of people were flooded. I met a lot of people. Most of the people in the hotels that we stayed at were actually evacuees for the beginning. And then, interestingly enough, when they all went home, the hotels were filled with state police coming from other parts of the state to come and help out with getting things back on track.
Were there also state police from other states?
I didn't see any. They got a lot of stadies in Florida. They didn't seem to have a shortage. They didn't seem to have a shortage, but it was quite an adventure. We'll tell our grandkids about it.
And
We'll
did
embellish
you
it.
manage to get out of there on schedule? And
Yes.
was it no problem departing?
It really was not a big scary deal. It really wasn't that bad. I don't mean to downplay it. A lot of people suffered a lot of property damage, but The worst of it was trying to get some food, to be honest, because the restaurants and stores were all closed, and even the day after the hurricane, people were attending to their own business. They opened up rather slowly, but
Wow.
it's good to be back.
Well, it's good to have you here, and good to get a first-person account. It's one thing to kind of track it on the Weather Channel or whatever, another to have somebody who's actually lived through it. But we have another hurricane.
Let's get on to big business.
Arnie Arnesen,
sort of.
one of our favorite people to be on the Progress
Thunderstorm.
Report.
Not as like a hurricane.
Thunderstorm?
Yeah, thunderstorm.
Lightning and thunder?
Well, on occasion.
On occasion.
Yeah.
But we are delighted always to welcome Arnie to our show, and we're just delighted she's
And a
here
great time to have her here,
and
too.
a great time to have her because
There's a lot going on in
she's
politics.
insightful. She thinks about things. She researches things. So we're real interested in what she has to say, and I hope folks will participate by calling us at 413-0223 and chip in, because this is the very height of the
Oh, my God.
the final. We're in the ninth inning here, folks.
This is it.
This is it.
I've heard the phrase October surprise. You think we're going to have one?
It's been Hanukkah. Every day we're getting a different surprise.
Oh, that's right. I think there's an
That's
October
what I'm saying.
surprise
That's
every
right.
day.
Every day. So I just pulled up a couple of headlines that just to sort of
Okay.
set the stage. Donald Trump reverts to bare-knuckled campaigning. Reverts. Hillary Clinton leads Donald Trump by 9 points. It's a Wall Street Journal poll. Trump destroyed Trump, not the media. The election is over. And this is my absolute favorite one. Trump declares himself freed from GOP party shackles. And I'm thinking,
Yeah, I was wondering what those shackles were.
well, and actually, I have to end with this one. Trump attacks on GOP leaders ignites civil war inside party. And that's actually the most powerful of all of these, is what's happening to the Republican Party. And we're actually seeing a microcosm of that in New Hampshire. So I do a national radio show Monday through Thursday, and then on Friday we come home and do local. But this week, I decided on my national show, I would bring in the former GOP chair, Fergus Cullen, to come on the air to talk to us, because what's happening in New Hampshire, it really is a microcosm of the country. And since the name Kelly Ayotte is a better known, it's let's see, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, Hillary Clinton, and then Kelly Ayotte. Her name is brought up all the time because this election is so pivotal for the U.S. Senate and control of the U.S. Senate, and she is one of the most vulnerable U.S. senators in the country, and she has been facing the most incredible dilemma of her political career. What to do with Donald.
And stumbling a little bit with it. She
Well,
doesn't seem to have a
Chris
very
Ryan,
clear,
who asked her that question at New England College about would you consider Donald Trump a role model? I'm trying to figure out, when she said if he got elected president, I wanted her to list 3 things that he could role model. No, I'm dead serious. Name me 3 things he could role model. And actually, the interesting thing is, when Hillary Clinton was asked at the end of that debate, can you say anything positive about Donald Trump? I'm going to be kind of a jerk here. But she did say his children. His wife raised them. I want to remind everyone, his wife raised them. So if you're going to even mention...
Which wife is that?
God, don't ask me. I can't even remember.
Different wives and different children.
Right. But I just want people to remember that that's part of the problem. Is she was sort of right about his children. Only I'm even questioning their credibility in this situation. But that's what she had to say. So take a look at what's happening in New Hampshire. You now have Kelly Ayotte. After the Billy Bush tapes came out, she had nowhere to go. And being a female Republican politician who really sort of sides with the McCains of the world, and with what's the guy from the guy who ran for president for 16
Lindsey
seconds.
Graham?
Thank you very much. See how quickly we forget. And who I actually kind of like, Lindsey Graham. Where was she
He
going
has
to go?
principles.
Well, he does have principles.
Hell of a war hawk.
And John
Yes,
McCain,
indeed.
had principles. They wavered, and I think the principles are finally coming back. But she had to not support him. She had to. The problem is that she has another person on the same ticket with her, and I don't mean Donald Trump, I mean Chris Sununu. And Chris Sununu and Ginta embraced Donald Trump, and Kelly Ayotte has walked away. So we are looking at the hemorrhaging within our own party. And frankly,
It's kind of interesting that
It's
who are
amazing.
sticking with him are men.
Yes.
And the one who's not sticking with him is Kelly Ayotte, a woman.
Well, take a look at most of the Republican elected women. Most of them have left him, have left Donald Trump, because because they
How
know
could
the
you not?
truth. How could you not? They know the truth.
Yeah.
And they can't face it. And Kelly has the greatest loss here of all of them. I mean, it was always going to be kind of interesting between Colin and Sununu. I think Colin will probably beat Chris Sununu. But Chris Sununu was making sure that he could sort of massage the base. He could not lose the base. He knew that because look at how close that election was anyway in the primary. There's obviously not a love and embrace of someone with the last name of Sununu. This is not a year to run as a Republican with a familiar last name. It just isn't. You know, dynasties don't work this year. So he had the liability of a dynasty. He had the liability of a father who just said horrific things about Donald Trump and then was taught to heal by Donald Trump and eventually endorsed Donald Trump. All right? So that was really unfortunate. So Chris basically had nowhere to go. What's so interesting about Kelly is that with her decision to walk away, she was beating Maggie Hassan. She was close to beating her and almost consistently just slightly ahead of her. By saying what she said, she lost those rabid Republicans at the bottom, that 20 or 35% that will see Donald Trump through hell or high water.
And that's what
and
I
that
meant
and
by
that's where
stumbling.
and that's where but it's not even a stumble. That's, I hate to say this, but it's kind of an interesting profile in courage, because she knew by doing what was right, she lost.
Well,
And she
Well,
did.
you know
I,
what?
I don't
hard
believe
to-
she'll win. I don't believe she'll win. because
I
of this.
think you're right on that, and I think she's going to be punished very severely
Yeah.
by
By
the
Republicans.
hardcore Republican
Yes,
base that she
yes,
needs.
that she absolutely
as a
needs.
foundation. But I consistently have a very hard time with people who come around at the last minute when they're forced to do it. I don't see that as a...
Every politician we know. Look at the gay marriage issue.
That's
I mean,
that's what I have in
if-
mind.
I mean, take a look at the gay. John
That's what I
Lynch,
have in mind.
Jean Shaheen, the Clintons. I mean, come on. They've all evolved on the issues. That is
it's a correct
so.
result, but is it courage? I guess is what I'm saying. If someone's got a gun pointed at your back, are you being courageous
okay.
because you walk forward?
Okay, so let me just say something. And I've learned this lesson. Courage only gets you so far. And when you lose and lose and lose because you have courage, you start asking yourself, was it worth it? Okay? And maybe there is some value for people being able to not only lead, but make sure that the people behind them are also following them. And so part of what evolution is, and what you see in a lot of politicians, is that they can't be too far out front or they lose. So what they need to do is they know where they want to go. They know what they believe. They just need to make sure that the population behind them is prepared to handle it.
So is that your public position and your private position?
That's
Is
really
that
what Hillary
that
Clinton
is?
was saying. No, and I truly believe that. And that's not like you don't believe it. What you know is, it's kind of like with children. When you have a little child, you only give them this much space to play in. That's not where you want them to be. You want them to be in this much space. But what you have to do is you have to make sure that they're maturing, that they're understanding, that they're gaining knowledge, and you constantly are expanding what they get. I'm not calling voters children, but what I am saying is that if anyone had told you 15 years ago where we would be on transgender issues and gay issues, you would put them into therapy.
You would.
And yet I was there. But I was there.
Yeah.
I believed in gay marriage. I believed in legalizing marijuana. I believed in all those things. What did it get me?
If you don't bring an electorate with you,
Exactly.
you don't have the success.
But you need the push-pull.
I understand what you're
You
saying.
need the push-pull. You need the people out there that are willing to say the truth and lose. And the reason is that Bella Abzug was incredible. Bella Abzug, by the way, everyone, was a congresswoman from New York. And here's what Bella Abzug said about winning on the most important issues. You have to learn to lose, lose, lose to win. To win. Because each loss gives you an opportunity to talk about an issue that you need to explain, and one election won't do it. Maybe 2 elections won't do it. Here's the worst part: if you run and never say a damn thing. That's the worst part.
yeah.
And so I'm not defending what Hillary does. She makes me crazy. You know, but here's what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful that Bernie and the millennials are going to make her accountable. You see, this is an election where all the money in the world isn't going to deliver for her. Wall Street isn't going to make a difference, because you know what we think of Wall Street? This. All right? And I mean the Bernie people, and I mean the Trump people. All right? You just saw the head of Wells Fargo step down. And you know what the killer is about Wells Fargo and the 2 million people that they lied to give them those stupid credit cards? Is that of all the banks that survived the 2008 economic meltdown? It was Wells Fargo. Of all the banks that you thought was actually fair and honest and true to their clientele, it was Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
And then what do you find out? They screwed the little guy big time. 2 million little guys, and they intimidated their workers.
Not to mention all the workers that they let go
Exactly.
to punish them for doing this.
Thousands. And I want to know that if Stump stepped down, if they gave him a golden parachute, a pox on them. He doesn't deserve a golden parachute for setting up an institution like this.
I bet he got one.
Oh,
We'll
I'm
find out.
sure he did, but
I
I
bet
think
he
we
got
need
a
to
real nice
expose
one.
it. I think we need to
I
expose
think
it.
we do.
So I just want people
But
to
I just wanted to
understand
say,
that's a problem.
Kelly
Oh.
Ayotte, she faced a Hobson's choice, didn't she?
She did.
There
She
was
did.
no way she could come out of this
But the whole
winning.
party is facing a Hobson's choice, but they created that
Yeah,
Hobson's
they
choice.
did.
They cannot walk away from the fact that they created the fertile environment. Look what the Democrats created. The fertile environment for Bernie, and look what the Republicans created. You know, they created the fertile environment for Donald Trump, who has no morals, who has no understanding, who cares about no one but the Donald. Look what they did. Me, myself, and I won.
Yeah.
That's what they created. They massaged everyone's hatred of government. They massaged everyone's hatred of the facts. They massaged everyone's hatred that we have faced tough choices. And because they said that all those things were not true, Donald Trump walked into the swamp and came out and said, "I'm your Messiah." And that's what he
Okay.
did. All right, I'm sorry.
Director
No, don't be
Brian-
sorry. This is
Director
great.
Brian is saying we got to
We need to take a breather, though. My heart's racing.
My heart's
Bert-
racing. And folks, we want to have some participation out there. Certainly, this has stirred up some desire to
Yeah, what do you think?
support, oppose, denounce.
We had the
As
debate.
long as you
There's
do it
plenty
in
of the
polite
de-
terms, we're ready to hear from you.
Plenty at the debate to talk
413-0223. We'll be right back after a very short break because we got a lot more we want to cover. So this is the progress report for this, what is it,
I'll calm
October
down.
12th?
October 12th.
Yeah.
October 12th, my God. What are we, less than a month away from the elections, and we couldn't have a better guest to explore these issues than
Really,
Arnie
I thought they
Arnesen.
were November 28th.
Well, we're telling all the Republicans.
I saw it on TV.
Just like Donald Trump told everybody to vote on
The
November
wrong day.
28th.
That's right, the wrong day. That's right.
And we've been
I
having,
couldn't help
we've
it,
been
I'm
having
sorry.
lively discussion here. We just continued during our brief break when I said I thought Clinton had a successful presidency, and Arnie begs to differ.
Yeah.
Let's go on. We have one major candidate, Kelly Ayotte, who's now backed away from Trump after trying to dance this untenable tightrope between I'm not endorsing him, but I'm going to vote for
But
him.
remember, she's the bipartisan senator. If I hear the word bipartisan more times, how she reaches across the aisle, the problem is if she's going to say that, she could not stay with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Because you can't be this reach across the aisle and then have that lunatic behind you. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't.
So do you
Because
think
he's
it's going to
not
be?
healthy.
You think it's going to be worse for her than for Chris Sununu, our gubernatorial candidate for
Well,
Republicans?
they both have their
and Frank
liabilities
Ginta?
now. So here's what's interesting. Chris Sununu's liability is his last name. It's not a year to
Well,
be
it was
senator.
also his greatest asset when he won the
course,
primary.
it was. Well, it was his asset. But look at Edelblut. Think of who almost beat him. You couldn't pick him out of a lineup. You didn't know who he was.
Yep.
I mean, let's remember this.
A first one-term House
State rep.
rep.
Well,
House rep.
but look, he had lots of money, And he knew how to Velcro together a lot of unhappy people.
Yep.
He knew how to reach out to the small, tiny evangelical community. He knew how to reach out to some of the, ultra-conservatives. So he knew exactly what he needed to do, plus he had lots of cash. I mean, let's not forget, he's a very wealthy man. He didn't have to raise it. He could spend it. And here's the best thing that Edelblut had. Just like Bernie Sanders, nobody was paying attention to him. Can I be honest? Sometimes when you're looking over here, it's really easy to go up the ladder. And that's exactly what he did.
you can
it's
be
exactly what he did. Because everybody was looking at Gatsis.
Yeah.
I mean, Gatsis was the other anointed. Where did he show up?
Yeah.
And Gatsis had more money than God. Every developer was giving him cash.
Yeah.
So,
Plus, he has plenty of money on his own.
Exactly. So it's so interesting that Forrester and Gatsis and Sununu were the predictables. And yet it was the year of the unpredictables. And that's why Edelblut was so successful.
Yeah.
Take a look at Hillary and Bernie. It was the year of the predictables. But look what happened to the unpredictables. And then Donald Trump had something they all didn't have, which was he knew how to manipulate the media better than anyone. Because he was a genius at it, because he knew exactly how they operated. And what I think is the most amazing thing about the Billy Bush tapes is that the only relevant Bush this year is Billy. Is that
I like that
amazing?
one.
Is that
That's
amazing? But it's even better because I suspect that no one in the Bush family is working with Donald Trump. I mean, I think there is a Bush in Texas that sort of has said he's going to endorse him, but he's about the only Bush that's doing it. Otherwise, everyone from Barbara to the daughters to George to Jeb, everyone has walked away.
Not to
And
mention
isn't yeah.
Bush 41 HW.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Apparently going to vote for Hillary.
But what is remarkable, though, is that, but if, in a way, I tweeted this out the other day, that if low-energy Jeb Bush was taken out so early, despite the fact that everyone thought he was the anointed, he had more money than all of them put together, won't it be ironic if it's the Bush Billy that ultimately takes them out? It's kind of the revenge of Jeb. It's kind of but
That's quite a conspiracy theory.
That's a nice one.
but what's so sad about this is that we didn't need to see the Billy Bush tape. We didn't need to see it. Everything about
apparently we did, because everything that went before wasn't enough. Apparently we did.
Well, it's so let's the other thing I want to talk a little bit about is that I had Jared Bernstein on, everyone, and Jared Bernstein was the economic advisor to Joe Biden. He's with the
That's
Center
quite
for
a
Budget
big
Policy.
guest. He's on the national TV shows.
Well,
you know?
but the reason I had him on was he wrote a piece about what we can learn from Trump's taxes. Now, as many people know, Trump has not shared his taxes with us, except he has
And
done
the
it
only
once.
presidential candidate in modern times to refuse to do it.
Well, but here's the good news. If he wants a casino, he does. And it turned out in 1995, he had to share his taxes in order to open a casino. So here's the good news. He doesn't give a crap about the American people, but he really cares about a blackjack table, a casino license, okay? So we find out that he lost $1 billion during one of the biggest economic booms ever. Ever. This was not the downturn of the early 90s. This was not the downturn of 2008. This was the boom times. Tech bubble. Nobody was losing money, but Donald Trump managed to lose $1 billion. And what is so amazing is that they assume, based on what he showed them and based on how much he lost, because of all the creative federal income tax loopholes and opportunities that exist in the IRS tax code, that he could not only go back 3 years, he could go forward 18 years, I think it is, and not have to actually pay taxes for as much as 18 or 20 years
And apparently
forward.
that's exactly what happened.
Well, but let me share what I learned with Jared today on the air. What is the most successful lobbying group in Washington, D.C.? Real estate developers.
Is that so?
The number. Wait a minute. Is this
Better than Big Pharma?
My first guess would have been Big Pharma in a heartbeat.
No. The most. So now this is where it's really going to make you gag, because Donald Trump is actually he belongs to an ilk. What do you think is the average federal tax liability that real estate developers in the United States pay to the federal government? What is the
when
average?
you say real estate development,
Well,
you're
we're
talking
talking
about
big
big ones or
Trump.
just the guy
No,
developing?
no,
them?
no. I'm talking about big
They
ones.
put together LLCs for
Right,
each deal
right,
every
right,
day,
right,
you know.
right,
So
right.
I can imagine
So
that they're working really hard to keep
so what do
that
you think?
down to.
So if you're looking at like we know there are a lot of large corporations that pay zero. We know that on average most companies pay about maybe 14 or 15%. Nobody pays at 35, except for some poor schmuck at the bottom. Okay, so what do you think the average the big real estate guys pay? because they're able to create this amazing tax code that benefits every loss they've ever had. Here's the average. 1%. No.
I'm
1%.
glad we're getting that out of them. I would have thought it would be less, to be honest with you.
Well, less is zero. No, 1%. No, 1%. That's their tax liability. Remember how angry we were at Mitt Romney because he paid 14%?
Right.
Oh my God, he was a gusher.
Way
too much.
Way below what most of us pay.
Right. But way below what most of us pay. But real estate, it turns out, on average, they pay 1%. So Donald Trump, if he pays zero, he's doing about average. All right? So we can't knock him for that. And in fact, when he says he's smart, no, he's not smart. He just knew exactly which lobbyists to hire and which congressman to pay, because they were aided and abetted the ability for these guys to write so much off despite every other loss that you could possibly imagine. Now, here's the really sad part of the 1% or the 0%. More than any other group on the planet, who needs the government to spend for them? Who needs roads? Who needs bridges? Who needs schools? Who needs water? Who needs sewage? More than any other group, real estate needs government support to be successful. They can't go to an island and open up because it doesn't work. It works because they need the infrastructure that what do we hear when people put a development up and there's a fabulous school in that community? They know that they can get almost $50,000 to $100,000 more per house because there's a fabulous school. What do they know if there's access to a highway? Look at Concord,
I was
89
just going
and
to say,
93.
you put an exit and there's development, it spurs
Oh,
development.
yeah.
And these guys
the
And
road.
nobody
don't
pays the government back for the money they
invest.
vested to provide this boon for them.
But these people don't make a contribution. They don't make a contribution to the roads, to the bridges, to our security, to the clean air, to the clean water, and yet they could not exist. And that's part of the story of Donald Trump. He's not alone, everyone. He is part of and that's where the obligation right now, because so many people are so angry, and if Hillary Clinton becomes the next president of the United States, she's got a lot of repairing to do. And that repairing isn't only about the angry white working guys that are legitimately angry. They are. But it's also about the millennials that are legitimately angry, and they are. And part of the problem is you have to begin by looking at the damn tax code. That is, let failure succeed, and people never get to success. And that's exactly what's happened. And a pox on all of them.
And the sad reality about the Washington lobbyists is that their number one task is to work with the tax writing committees, and they achieve their success by having some line, if it's not in the law, it's in the committee reports, which will help in interpreting the law that benefits the industry they represent.
Well,
That's what goes on with lobbying in Washington, D.C.,
Yeah.
day in and day out, and it's a disgrace, and it's a cry to reform our political finance system.
It is exactly. I mean, we are now more than we've always known that money was the mother's milk of politics.
It's
We've
always
always
been.
known that, but it's now even more insidious because not only is there so much of it and unlimited amounts, but now it's clandestine. Now
it's dark.
Now it's dark money.
Yep.
So you can't even follow the money. I mean, I was just listening to a number of people were talking about, when you read in the medical journals, and you read some great doctor writing about some phenomenal medicine that obviously pharma is backing, but he doesn't report how much money he's getting from Merck or how much money he's getting from Eli Lilly. And now at least they are requiring, at a minimum, you disclose every dime that you get from all those sources. That means it's up to us as to what kind of lens we want to look at this, supposedly wonderful piece they write, but at least there's disclosure. Well, if that's true for what happens in medical journals, why is that not true in politics? Why
It
is
hasn't always
operating
been
in the
true
dark?
in the medical journals. I mean,
No, it hasn't always been.
Entire institutions are set up by one or the other industry to provide the research to counterbalance the real science that's coming out of the universities.
I mean, I remember Bob Smith not liking, this is our former U.S. Senator, Mr. Ultra-Conservative, and Bob Smith saying over and over again, no, we don't have to control the amount of money. We only have to have disclosure. Transparency.
Well, that's
that
where
was
I
in
came
the-
to. I give up the fight to limit the amounts, just seems to never work, but at least let's know the source.
Well, but what's so sad is people like Bob Smith changed. The people that would wax poetic about the need for transparency and the need for disclosure, they managed to devolve on the issues. Remember we were talking about evolving on the issues? Well, they managed to devolve on the issues. And the sad thing is, the Supreme Court helped them.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. So that's why you will see leaders change. Change is okay. But the reason why they change is because you see that there has been movement within the population at large. Look at how we are on marijuana. Look at how we are on gay issues. Look at how we are on so many things that even climate change. Millennials now get it. You know, they do. They believe it. They understand. And even if you don't believe in climate change, you got to start asking yourself, so explain to me the extreme weather. And I'll use Louisiana as an example. We know about Hurricane Katrina. Well, in a lot of ways, what happened recently in Louisiana is as bad as Hurricane Katrina. Why? Because the average amount of rainfall in that part of Louisiana, around, I guess it was Baton Rouge, is 31 inches a year. They saw 31 inches in some locations in 15 hours. In 15 hours.
Oh, yeah.
That is not normal under any set of circumstances. So even if you don't want to buy into the climate change, you better buy into extreme weather, because you're going to have to deal with that.
So here's a question I got for you, Arnie, going back to Trump and taxes. At this point, what's he got to lose by releasing his taxes? Everybody already is pretty sure that the worst is he hasn't paid any taxes. So why didn't he just release his taxes and stop being coy about it?
I think it's because he's probably not as successful as he would like everyone to think.
That
think it's not
could
about
be.
tax.
That could be.
I think he's paper thin.
Yeah.
I think, he's gold leaf. He's not a gold bar. And I think that's part of the problem. Look at everything he does, he writes off. I mean, this is the only man who's going to make money on
He's the king of debt?
Well, no, he's going to make money on this presidential campaign.
Because he's buying
charging
room space from himself.
It's all about
he's
boosting
renting
his
office
brand.
space
Right.
to his
He's
campaign.
buying his water. He's buying his steaks. He's using Trump Airlines. He's using everything he has, and then he builds the
Most
campaign.
of these things don't exist anymore.
I know. I'm being funny. But what I'm saying is
he's not going to be the
selling.
first guy to do this. I mean, every candidate that I've ever seen, they write a book at the end. Their campaign buys a bunch of books and gives them out. I mean,
Well,
That's small stuff,
That's
though.
small. That's pocket change.
That's right.
That's pocket change.
Yeah.
But I guess the question then becomes, what happens the day after the election?
There's the question.
I can survive.
He opens
between
Trump
them.
Media Group and spends the next 8 years bashing the Clinton administration.
It's not going to be that simple. And let me tell
Yeah,
you
if
why.
that was all it is, I wouldn't be so worried. But I'm very worried that he's not going to do an Al Gore who said, I totally disagree with the Supreme Court 5-4 vote that gave George W. Bush the
Oh
election.
no, he's going to
stop the recount in Florida.
He's going to
But
stir up trouble.
I don't think that's not in his character to behave that way.
Well, no
Gore
one-
said, I don't agree with the Supreme Court decision, but I accept the result.
So here's the problem. He's already prepared us for it, because he's already told us the system is rigged.
Oh,
And
understood.
you know what's proof of
That's
the
his
rigging?
escape
No,
hatch.
he has proof. Can I hear what the proof is? There was a problem with his microphone. No, you think I'm being funny. No, I am not being funny here.
Well,
No.
But you are being
There
funny
actually was
in
a
the
problem.
sense
There actually-
that it
yes.
was
In the
only
room.
a problem in the room.
room.
There wasn't- for the
you're
millions and
splitting
millions
hairs.
watching, there's no problem.
Bob, you're splitting hairs. You're splitting hairs. No.
there's the proof right there,
No.
huh?
And I hate to say this, but if there was anyone who should have had a problem with their microphone, it was Hillary and not him.
Yeah.
Because if you give him a quarter of a centimeter, he will take an entire mile.
Yeah.
And the problem is there was something wrong. And that just builds on his case that the system is rigged. And we actually also have proof.
I don't
that
think
the
it's that big because, the 88 million watch that debate did not see any problem with his
No,
microphone.
you're not hearing me.
I'm hearing
because
you. I'm
what
just not
I'm
agreeing
saying
with
is
you.
for his base, that fed them that he was telling them the truth. They don't need the whole truth and nothing but the truth. They just need a shred of truth.
Oh, I think his
And the
base
shred-
is about much more wild-eyed fantasies than that. I don't
Well,
think that's a big thing for his base at
no,
all.
but-
But
The rigged system is a very wide thread through his base.
Well, and
Because they feel the system's rigged against them as well.
And remember, let's remember that since 1970, if you start looking at the trajectory for middle-class families in this country, it has gone down. It has gone
Yeah.
down. And
everybody feels it.
And the definition of middle class in the late 50s, 60s, and 70s was white.
Yeah,
It was white.
yeah.
So can we be honest here? If you're talking
That's when
middle-
America
that's-
was great, I think, in his
You know,
idea.
I did not live in the 50s. I was born in 59.
Okay.
Oh, I did. I can talk
But
about
I
it.
don't, to the extent that I can recall, that's not my understanding. It was an economic situation.
No,
Whether in
no,
practice, in
no,
reality, that's what
no,
it was.
no,
I,
no.
I didn't see
All
it
right,
as the definition
no.
of the category.
No, all right, so this is...
Educate me.
I
I'm
will
willing to be
educate you.
educated.
I interviewed a guy, James Sawicki, everyone. Go get this week's New Yorker. Please, I beg you. He wrote an article about the racial divide in wealth and the widening racial divide. It is the most unbearable piece to read because you are absolutely wrong. You are absolutely wrong. And he goes, and I don't want you to be wrong. I want us to be neutral. I want us to be colorblind.
Are you talking about on the ground facts, or are you talking about the theoretical definition?
No, I am talking about on the ground facts.
Fair
And-
enough.
and
I
will
don't
give-
disagree
no,
with
no,
you on that.
no, no,
I'm not
I-
disagreeing with that. But what I'm talking about, when you say the definition of the middle class was
white. Was
that's
white.
the definition. You had to be white to be in it?
Well,
Yes.
no, but all right, if
Basically,
wait a
yes.
second. If let me just make up a number. If 90% of some group happens to be in this category, what do you call it? Mixed? I hate to break it to you. I'm not saying the number is 90%, but for the vast majority of people, the definition of middle class was a certain economic number. But when you looked at the economic number,
The
the
people who
economic
achieved
number,
that numbers.
and why did they achieve it? Because of government policies.
I won't disagree with that either. I'm not disagreeing with the result.
let me-
I'm not sure I understand the theoretical basis for that you're ascribing to it.
Well, so let me give you an example, and this is what he told me.
gotta take a break, by the way.
Back in 1984, the difference between white wealth and black wealth, not income wealth, was a differential of $84,000. 1984. Right? So that meant, on average, white families had $84,000 more in assets or wealth than black families. Where do you think we are today? Where do you think we are
I think
today?
it's a lot higher.
Oh my God!
I would.
You ready? Over $200,000. That's success for a black family. They now, compared to a white family, the white family has $200,000 plus more in wealth than the average black family. Now you tell me what happened between 1984 and today. What was going on? All right? Was there something there that made it almost impossible for black families in America to acquire wealth? And this is as middle-class families were tanking. Think about this. Think about this. So when you actually look at the math, white working-class men have a lot of reasons to be angry. You know why? Because now they know what it's like to be black in America. They now know what it's like to not be able to see their wives stay home and take care of the kids. Now they know what it's like to see
we don't have
not
that
to have a
option
pension.
anymore for
Oh,
almost
yeah.
everybody.
So that's their anger.
That's for sure.
Welcome to our world.
Yep. Yep.
Sorry.
I see your point now.
All right, see
I
my
do
point?
see your point,
All
and
right.
I consider myself educated to some extent. But I'm going to have to go home and think about that definition thing
All
that
right,
you said.
all right.
I'm not
Well,
sure I agree.
Go
with
to a
that,
break
but-
and I'll get you another number.
Okay. Time for our final break, folks. This is the progress report for October 12th. Still waiting for some audience
Yeah,
participation.
last chance to call in.
I'll be quiet.
And no, you don't want to be quiet. We don't want you to be quiet, but we do want to see if anybody wants to participate. We'll be right back, folks. 413-0223. Hey, here it is again. Final segment of the progress report for this Wednesday, October 12th, as we come up with just, 3 weeks or something to the presidential election and the election of all our state officials up and down the ticket from state rep to governor, state senator, executive council, all of that.
Kind of looking forward to having it over with, Bob.
Well, I think a lot of us are.
Judging only from this year's campaign, you might think that politics was a dirty business.
Well, I think everybody is tired of the blitz of advertising we're getting. I mean, the obscene amounts of money being spent on our U.S. Senate race between Hassan and Kelly Ayotte. And every time I see one of those ads, I wince and I think of all the wonderful things we could be doing with all that money that's just,
No, we couldn't be doing anything wonderful with that money. That's rich people's money.
Well,
We don't get to do anything wonderful with
Well,
rich people's money.
theoretically, if we could use that money, we could do wonderful things.
Rich people's
Other
money
than-
stays with rich people.
Yeah, it sure does. And, well, we were talking about, and I think this comes up from the Trump campaign slogan, "Make America Great Again." Make America great again. Well, as Hillary said, America is great. And my question is, when does Trump think America was great? And that sort of got us into talking about the 1950s. Is that the time when America was great, when Dwight Eisenhower was there and we still had segregation?
Everybody has in their mind a romantic past when a golden age that never existed.
It never existed.
It was on TV, Father Knows Best, or whatever the case might
It
be.
was great for some people, because remember the GI Bill. Remember what they did by providing housing, the housing for the returning veterans after World War II. What the government did was a huge infusion of wealth by making it possible for all those returning soldiers to be able to buy a home. And when you want to know what wealth is for most families, it's not stocks.
It's
It's
their
not
house.
bonds. It's
It's
their
their house,
house.
their home.
And that's where we saw there was this incredible push to not only repay them for their sacrifice, but to invest in them. And what is so amazing is, what did we invest? We invested in three things. Their education. We let them go to college for nothing. For nothing.
Yep.
We gave them an affordable VA mortgage. Whether they didn't, like, little money down, low interest rates, we invested in them. Even the veterans' health care, we invested in them. What are the three most important things
Which
everyone
let us
needs?
remind everybody is a single-payer system that
Yep.
nobody wants to do away with, and
Exactly.
works quite well.
So look at the three things. What we did that made America great was the government said, you get health care. The government said, you get to help buy in your house. And the government said, you get an education. And what? Oh, my Lord, it worked.
It boomed. We
You
boomed.
Why do you think that so many people jumped on Bernie Sanders when he ran?
Because he was saying
Because
those
that's
same
exactly
things.
what he was saying. And you know what? In 1950, that's exactly what America was saying. So when America was great was when America made the decision to make those investments. We had issues with civil rights. You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
And
the
I'm
America
not-
talking about is white America. Let's make it
well,
very clear.
I'm not disagreeing with you,
Yeah,
but
it
I'm
was
just
not-
telling you.
That
Minority.
doesn't change the effectiveness of the government
Yes.
policy.
That's
Exactly,
true. That's true. We
exactly.
should have made it more wide.
Exactly.
Let's
Okay.
take a call. We got Larry on the line.
Hi, Larry. We're glad to have you call. We're glad you're joining us. Way right in.
Bob?
Hi.
Hi, this is Larry calling. I've got a couple of things I'd like to ask you, but first of all, I'm going to say the late 1980s, 1990s, that was a good time for me.
Yeah, I think it was for a lot of people.
But
Yep.
50s were okay, too. The reason I'm calling, though, is you're my rep. I'm in Ward 12, District 19 and 45.
Yep.
Okay, so you're my rep, and
Yep.
then I've got written down here, I've got three other reps, I guess. Is it Dick Marston, Jane
Right.
Beaulieu, and Ron Boisvert, Boisvert?
No,
Or
he's
some of
not.
those
He's
names
not currently
obsolete?
serving. He did not run last time. Your other rep is Carlos Gonzalez in the Hills 95, which is the Floterial district.
So does he take the place of Ron?
Ron
Yes,
Colbert, yeah.
I think so. I'm not
Okay,
absolutely,
so
but I
it's
believe so.
It's Carlos?
Carlos and Jane Beaulieu, and then in Ward 12, it's Dick Marston and I.
Those are
Oh,
the
okay, very
correct
good. So you will then represent me
Yep,
up at the State House?
yep.
Oh, okay. I'm very confused about how it's all set up. I'm originally from Massachusetts.
hmm
So I never had these many reps at the state level.
Well, that's a New Hampshire.
Welcome to New Hampshire.
That's a curiosity about New Hampshire. We have 400 reps.
Oh, by the way, Bob, I was the person, I don't know if you remember me, not the last time we voted in the primary, but the last time we voted in an actual election.
Yep.
I'm the person that stopped to say hi to you on the sidewalk as you were going down to the school to vote.
Oh, very good.
You probably get a lot of people saying hi to you anyway, but you're easily recognizable.
Was he wearing a cap?
Was I wearing my railroad hat?
Railroad cap? Yeah.
No. But anyway, the other thing I want to say is I can't remember in my political life, voting, how much mail I'm getting, as far as campaign brochures and
Yep.
the nastiness of everything.
Yep.
From Governor Hassan's and Senator Kelly's, Ayat's campaign.
Yep.
And then the campaign at the presidential level. It's even at the congressional level with Frank Gunter and the other person running against him.
Carol Shea
Carol Shea
Porter.
Porter.
Even at the governor's level, it's pretty,
Yep.
it's all negative instead of positive of what they're going to do for us.
Yeah, it certainly is. It certainly is.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, all the consultants, and all these people have consultants, they tell you that's what works. That's why they do it, because it works. You don't win by promoting yourself. You win by driving up the negatives of your opponent. That's the system we have.
Right, I understand. Okay. Well, very good. Thank you for that information, and have a good night to all three of you.
Okay.
Thanks for calling, Larry.
Thanks for calling.
It's interesting he said that it was good for him in the late 80s, early 90s, because it wasn't good here. We had the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression.
Well, we had the big collapse of all our banks here.
And two
5
bankrupt
banks.
utilities. And
Huh?
two bankrupt utilities. Remember
Well,
the
yeah,
bank?
yeah, well,
we had that. And remember
That
this
was
is-
not so bad, actually, because there was an upside to that.
Yeah, a little bit.
Otherwise, the electric rights would be way
Well,
worse than they are.
But remember, it was in New Hampshire that Bill Clinton learned about the nature of the economic downturn, and this is where he said it's the economy, stupid.
Yeah.
Because we taught him.
Well, we can
Because it
teach.
was-
We
it
can
was
teach
really-
people things. I think even
it
though
was
Hillary
really-
had a
was-
disastrous primary here this year in New Hampshire, she learned a lot when she was campaigning here.
Yes, she did, and she will evolve. Watch.
Because
I mean,
I'm running out of time, I hope.
No.
she is. Nobody will ever outwork her on anything she chooses to do.
Well,
She's one hell of a hard worker.
the question is, where is that work going to take her? I agree, she works very hard.
She works very hard.
And I think she's now hearing a message that, in a way, she was in this sort of convenient bubble, and the bubble didn't allow her to hear what Bernie has been hearing for a long time, and to a large extent, the scab that Donald Trump has peeled off. And I think that has to some extent, shake her to her core. And if you go back to her early days,
It may, but
she
let's-
has the capacity to understand and to hear it.
Oh,
and to
she's
translate
smart.
it. I know.
She's smart. And the one thing that people forget is that Bernie did very badly with minority Americans. Yeah, he did well in places
They
like
didn't know
New Hampshire.
him.
Well, maybe, but they knew Hillary and they liked her. And I think that's a good thing, because I
think as the campaign wore on, Bernie's numbers with minority communities were steadily increasing. He didn't end up having a large
nowhere
following,
near
but,
to hers.
but his numbers were increasing as they heard his message.
And there is value to familiarity. There's no question about it. And the Clintons were very familiar to the black community. They're from the South. He was from Arkansas.
He was the first black
they're
president,
Yeah,
you know, I mean,
that was the joke.
Supposedly, yeah.
But so and Bernie had everything that sort of scared them. He was a New York Jew from Vermont. I mean, I hate to break it to you, but that doesn't build a bridge right away, and it's not obvious
I
right
don't
away.
know
I'm telling you,
that.
once
And-
his outreach, his numbers were climbing.
Well,
during
again,
during
remember,
the
he was the
primary.
unknown.
Yeah.
So not only did he have to become known, but then he had to sort of break a stereotype about who he was and why what he was saying was of value to the black and Hispanic community. That's a hard
Talk
road.
to Sandy.
Let's talk to Sandy.
Hi, Sandy. You with us?
Go ahead, Sandy. You're live on the Progress
Hello.
Report. Hi, Sandy.
Welcome.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Bob. Bob
Yeah, you're
and Arnie. Love
Yeah.
you to death. My husband and I always watch you when you're on the Bob Elka show and with Mike. I graduated from Central High School in 1955.
Ooh.
All I was 17 years old. I took the commercial course. I could walk around the city, and I could get 2 bookkeeping jobs
Yes,
in one day.
yes.
if I wanted.
Yes.
Now, I did take a job. I did work for State Dye Company in the office when I was 16 after school, and then I worked there afterwards. But then I went to Transitron. It was a company which is long gone, near Granite Street. Excuse me, and they made radar equipment, and I went in there as a bookkeeper, and I did labor distribution and a bookkeeper. And I could give my folks a third of my pay,
Yes.
spend a third of my pay, and save a third of my
Yes. Yes. I know.
pay.
What
And
you-
that's what I did until I was married when I was 20 years old, 3.5 years later. And the 50s to me were absolutely wonderful. My dad was in the service. All my uncles were. They came back. They did buy homes under the GI loans and everything. And then, so anyway, to go on to Louisiana, Baton Rouge wasn't too bad with Katrina. My little Irish family has been living
Oh,
down
not
there for
Katrina.
about 18 years to take care of the O'Neills, the grandparents. And my daughter and my son-in-law and children are down there, grandchildren. I just had my first great-grandson,
Congratulations.
William Patrick O'Neill Blossman.
What a great name.
Anyway, there was 150,000 people that never returned down there, but that was in the 9th Ward. The 9th Ward was 13.9 feet below sea level to begin with.
Right.
And those people, a lot of them died. The homes are no longer there. It looks like a war. Still looks like
A war zone.
someone just came and bulldozed
Yeah,
that
yeah.
whole 9th Ward.
Yeah.
Baton Rouge wasn't too bad, and my granddaughter was up at LSU, and actually she stayed there at the time. And my daughter and son-in-law and grandson had to move up towards Baton Rouge.
Everybody did.
Further up.
Most
Katrina.
people did. Most people
I
did.
But
think
I was
Baton Rouge
amazed.
is
I
now
just
the
came
largest
back
city
3
in
days
Louisiana.
ago, so that's why I'm mentioning it. I wanted to go down and see my little new great-grandson, first one that
Sure.
Roger and I have. And I was amazed that their sales tax has now gone up to 11.9%. You go into a grocery store,
A grocery
you go
store.
anywhere to buy anything, 11.9%.
On food.
And I thought that was kind of outrageous. So then I'm trying to figure out, I'm talking to my daughter. Now, my daughter's house, up here, she would probably pay $4,500, I'm thinking $4,700 for her house in taxes. She pays approximately $1,600. So I don't know if a sales tax evens that out, but of course they also have a state income tax too in Louisiana. But I know quite a bit about Louisiana because they have been down there for a long time. Both the O'Neills have passed away now, but they were ill and they went down there to help them out. And they stayed. They ended up staying there. So,
Well, Sandy, we got about 2
Yeah,
minutes
we're
left.
about to the end of the show. If you got any quick
I
questions.
know, it's awful, but I love to listen to Arnie because she's so right. Now,
Who doesn't?
listen, Arnie, I was a Bernie Sanders. I stood out in front of the polls for 6 hours because my 4 college kids, 4 college children asked me if I would do that, and I did. I did students for Bernie Sanders. Of course, I have a Hillary sign in front of my house now.
course
I
you
will
do.
definitely vote for
Of
Hillary.
course
My
you
husband
do.
definitely
Of course
will.
you do. Of course you do.
And 2 of those
I
boys
love
are
it.
Republicans, but they are not voting for Donald Trump. They are voting for Hillary Clinton.
Well, CNN has
One
come.
goes to Stony
Thank you.
Brook and one goes to Gordon.
Just to
One
let you.
lives in New
just-
York, one's in Boston, the other one's at SNU, and the other one's at Manchester Community College.
Sandy,
Great story,
So-
Sandy.
we got to wrap
I'm
up this
gonna
phone
let you-
call.
So I'm going to let you go, but I just thought to give you a little tiny bit of info while I was listening. But we love her on the show, and Bob, you always have a good show. You and Mike always have a good show.
Well, thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
So
Sandy.
good luck, and I think Hillary's going to win. I think Donald has cooked his goose.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
We all hope so. We all agree on that.
It's
Well, that was a
interesting.
good call.
That was a good
summary-
call.
summing
It's,
up
it's a
of,
nice thing, and it's interesting to hear because, we talk about no broad-based tax. Of course, we got one. It's the property tax, and it's very high here.
Right.
And when you hear about sales tax and income taxes, yeah, lots of times that's true, but they have much lower property tax.
Right.
Hey, we're about to close. You want to give us a
Well, just
Closing thought?
CNN is coming to my house on Friday.
Oh.
And the reason they're coming to my house is to talk about millennials and Bernie and Hillary.
okay?
And so they've been talking to young people and all kinds of people all over the week, and I'm kind of they're sitting down with me on Friday to sort of do cleanup about what I think. So as soon as I know,
just
Bob,
think you
I'll
should
let
tell them to vote. We got to have people. That's the only thing that scares me about this election, is because of the high negatives for Hillary, which I'd love to talk about because I don't think they're not much justified, but vote. We got to have people vote.
Well.
We got to have people vote.
Let us know when that's going to air,
Yeah, I
because
will.
I'd
I
like
will.
to see that.
I-
I'm having
it'll
my
be-
own struggle to
I know,
get
I
to
know.
where Bob wants me
trust
to be.
Trust me. I have this struggle with like 14 people every day who call me up and like going through this. What do I do? And I wish there was a good choice, but guess what? You've got to make one.
Yep.
You've got to make
Well,
one.
I do think there's a good choice, but then again, I'm a minority here, I guess. Mike, great to have you back. Arnie, we love it when you come down. You
Thank
are
you.
just great.
All right,
Yeah, what you do.
1% in taxes that real estate
1%
developers. I want you to
in
remember that
taxes.
number. So if Donald pays
Yeah.
0, he's in.
She
you know,
knows her stuff, folks,
it's
and
good
she
company.
expresses it well. Thanks, Arnie.
You're welcome.
We'll be back with next week with another edition of the Progress Report, without a doubt. You can count on it.
See you next week, folks.
Take